I know you're a big fan of Wayne Shorter. I'm sure you talk about him a lot already, but I love Wayne Shorter. So we're gonna talk about Wayne Shorter.
Okay, cool.
That's just someone I heard mentioned a lot in your interviews. What place does Wayne Shorter hold in your musical heart? Is he like top dog?
I would say yes. I mean, I think that it's always changing, but there's something about Wayne Shorter that's remained so inspiring to me because his career has spanned so many decades, so many eras of jazz, and to me continues to be relevant and groundbreaking. And yet he's not about demonstration. He's not about technical skill. He's about art. He's about saying something. He's about being honest. You can hear from one note, you can hear that it's him and his music. You hear one note of him playing on a solo, again, from that same post-bop era, or you hear one note of him mid-90s, or you hear one note of him today, and it's all clearly him.
Yeah.
And so as like a macro idea, he just continues to inspire me in that way, where it's like, that's what I strive for. I just want to be fully myself. And it's so melodic. It just feels good to listen to his music. And I think it has so much imagination and playfulness. So
Yeah. I mean, I always felt like, he's more of a musician than a saxophonist. I mean, you could also say like a composer than a saxophonist. But people look at someone like Coltrane and say like he's a technician. Whereas, obviously Wayne Shorter is a virtuoso, but to me, I think he's just got such a specific sound. I always thought of it more like that. Kind of like another one of my favorite composers, Frank Zappa, was never like, I hear guitarists say like, oh, he's not really that good at guitar. He's just noodling, but that stuff is coming right out of blues artists like Johnny Guitar Watson. He knows what he's doing. He just has a sound. Like he's not afraid to play the instrument the way he wants and to make committed choices in his compositions. And I've always loved Wayne Shorter for that. I feel like he's got this otherworldly sound, like he's from another planet. But
definitely,
for me, I'm more in love with like certain like phases of his music. Speak No Evil was like one of my favorite records when I first started listening to like actual like artists in that like history of just like American music. And but really, one of my favorite recordings of all time with him is Native Dancer.
For sure.
And I mean, those are just like the probably two records that have influenced me the most of his. What's like a record of his that has done that for you?
I think like High Life and definitely stuff like from the 50s, 60s. I think I had like this compilation disc in high school, and it just had tracks from that whole era. And so as I've gotten older, it's like each of those albums are probably equally influential, but Night Dreamer and Juju and all of that. But I mean, they're just all great. And I love hearing him on the Jazz Messengers.
Yeah.
But I think, again, it's more about like, now that I'm getting older, it's like listening to him, going back to albums that I spent a lot of time with and listening to how it sounds in the context now of knowing his whole career, and like, rather than just being like, oh, this one is my favorite, Speak No Evil is my favorite or something. It's like, well, where did that go? Like, how did he take that? You create something so amazing, and then where do you go from there? Like, that's more intriguing to me, that idea.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I love so many different parts of his career. Like, Odyssey of Iska is another one of my favorites. I'm not always in the mood to listen to something like that, but it's like such a beautiful project, and he has so many different things like that, so many great compositions. And I was thinking of High Life before when you were talking about not being afraid to modernize and use new technology and producers, because what Marcus Miller did with the production on High Life was a totally different sound, but it fits so well with what Wayne was doing, because he's already so out of left field to begin with.
Totally.
But
and like I think it's that tune, Children of the Night. Like, if you hear the different versions of that, like,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I'm talking about. So cool.